where the repast was yesterday was at Emory University. It's right adjacent to where his neurologist is. I said, he didn't recognize it first because we came in from a different direction. I said, you see where we are? That's where, Anyway, I was telling Dana about, yesterday, because they catered, and I've told y'all this, but when we were in Daytona last summer when he had his issues, the neurologist down there said, I'm going to try to get you in with this guy. He's like he's the Rolls Royce of this kind of thing. But he said, it'll be months before you can see him probably. And so I'm like, well, what do we do until then? And then I wasn't even thinking about it, but Hannah called me later in the day and she said something about, she says, I don't know if y'all ever going to Emory, but we cater for one of the main neurologists. I said, what's his name? And I said, that's the guy they wanted to see. She said, I can get you in. Like we were driving up, they called and they said, would tomorrow, it was like would day after tomorrow be too soon? I'm like, no, that'll work, okay. And they put him on some kind of VIP list, so anytime we go in, it's just really, really cool when you have an intervention like that and something works out. Because sometimes you're in really a lot of pain right now, and they're like, we can see you in 2027. Like, well, I may not be here then, so it might be a moot point. But anyway, all right. Welcome. We have so many people today. They're out there parking. We have limited parking because they are lined around the block trying to get in. Okay, it is. It's what? Oh, I thought you said it. It's a great day. I appreciate you being here. Those of you who are logged on, I appreciate you watching. And Spirit of God, we just express gratitude today. We're grateful to be alive. We're grateful to be well. And as they used to say in the old church, He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. And we thank you for that. You did get us up. We lived to see another day. The steadfast love of the Lord never fails. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. We thank you for this morning of new mercies, new ideas, new energy, new paradigm, new things, new possibilities. Amen. We welcome that. We bless 2026. And we welcome it. We welcome the God who does exceeding abundantly above all we can ask or think according to the power that works in us. We agree for that. Please remain standing. Let's do the Lord's Prayer. Or let's do that then. Let's. What is it? Okay, well, you know what? It's all good. Let's just say the traditional one. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. All right. Tell the person next to you, if there is someone next to you, that you're, I don't know, tell them something. I don't know what to tell you to tell them, and then you may be seated. Thank you for those of you who came out yesterday for my uncle's homegoing service. I thought it was really beautiful, and something that really meant a lot to me. You know, when he passed on New Year's Day, they texted me, and I just ran right over there. And he had just left his body minutes earlier, and while we were around him and crying, Bishop D.E. said, I want you to share at his service. He said, you really knew him well. And so I did, and he gave me permission to, do what I do, which is usually a little much. What? It was good. Well, everybody told me, there's a couple of things I meant to say that I forgot. One thing I meant to say that would have made it, what I opened with, make more sense, is my whole life up until now, Mom has a tendency to call me Don more than she calls me my name. She's just that's just so ingrained in her, which I guess I made that point. But I was getting rave reviews, and people were saying, it really brought a personal touch. And then later in the evening, I heard from someone who said that a family member had said, boy, he sure isn't afraid to talk negatively about his parents. And I thought, oh my God, is that what somebody took away from that? And it bugged me. I didn't sleep well last night. I thought, man, I think I overshare on stuff. Let me give you a disclaimer about oversharing. And I'm assuming you've listened to me long enough now that you understand this. The downside to having a transparent ministry is you have a tendency to be transparent. Right. Do you know what I mean? Yes. It's like it's hard to tell a little bit of the truth because you end up telling the truth. And, Proverbs says a fool speaks his whole mind, and I don't want to ever be guilty of what I'm sometimes concerned about. But it just comes with the territory. I don't know how. To me, everything is everything. Like whatever's going on in my life, in my mind, whatever, it's all a part of my theology. Come on in. It's all a part of my theology, and it just, it becomes part of my sermon. Anyway, long story short, I just had to blow it off, and I thought, if I don't know the mom at this point has the presence of mind to watch it online. I didn't realize it was going to be shared so much online. I thought, well, she may see this, and she may take issue with a couple of things. I didn't say anything negative about them. I was just talking more about how when I would stay with Don and Clarice, I really was more like them. I mean, I just was. And if Mom were to say something about that, I'd be like, where's the lie? That's just the truth. When even in recent years, when Don would come over to the house, I'd be like, don't mention the rapture, don't mention Donald Trump, don't mention, please do not, because it's not going to go well. Things I would say in my house I'd get in trouble for, I could say at Don's house and we'd have an incredible conversation. So that was my point. But I was still uneasy about it, and I thought, if it needs to be a teachable moment, then I need to practice more discretion. And then I have another family member who's probably the closest person to my mom. And I got a text from her this morning. I thought, oh, Lord. And it was amazing. Her words were, I watched the whole thing. You were in capital letters, spectacular. I loved it. You totally told the truth. And I said, you have no idea how much I really needed to hear that. She says, no, it was perfect. Don't even second guess it. Be at peace. I'm like, thank you. I mean, I was going to power through without that. But, sometimes you think, well, maybe I do say too much. Maybe I need to be more. Well, I don't mean about theology. I mean but my life it's all. I don't know how to separate it. Good. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm in the middle of a personal crisis, I'm trying to figure out where's the parable in this, because I'm writing my gospel. And I'm trying to learn something from this. So where is it? And so anyway, it's all good. And I was.
What comes out of your mouth is relatable, and if you can't get over that, just tough luck. It's just life, It's not like you're saying, "Oh, Mom has $5 million in the account." That's not it.
Right.
It's the relatable things.
Thank you.
And we all don't go through the same things you do, but.
But you do. There's a similarity.
Right.
Yes. Well, thank you for saying that, because I was thinking about this today. Ernie, what?
I thought it was something that came from your heart when you said that, and it seemed to be very spontaneous, that you wanted to let them know how you felt in a different way.
Y'all going to make me cry. Yeah. Thank you.
And also, just one more point, a lot of what you said, Dana also said.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a lie. It wasn't
right.
Putting anything. They were fun people, was what I got out of it.
Thank you. Y'all are so wonderful. Thank you. And to your point, like I read a lot of, I'm very interested in biographies, and I've listened to a lot of biographies of like people in the movies that I liked, whatever. I'm always curious about backstories. I listen to audiobooks more than I actually read books, but when I listen to them, sometimes it's like I nearly wish I didn't know some of that story. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I kind of wish you hadn't told me that about so-and-so. And you do have to process it. And then I think, well, you know what? That's life. That is their story. And it's not the entirety of the story, and they're just telling it from their perspective. But to your point, it was heartfelt. I mean, my dad was a great man, and one thing I actually entertained saying this, but I thought no, that is too. I mean, the Holy Ghost is like, do not say that. But one of my favorite things that Don ever said to me, and this will explain our relationship. I was saying something about, I was talking to him one night about getting hate mail from somebody, some homophobic thing, and he said, you know what I don't understand? He said, you didn't do anything wrong. He said, now we know how to have a scandal, but you just told the truth. And I was like, that's deep. But that kind of explains to you how very much I'm wired like him. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of sounds like this kind of thing I would say. And so, it was heartfelt. I mean, it's affected me emotionally even more than it, with Dad, I was so close to it and so exhausted at the end. I just felt relief. But with this, it's like, wow, he's. But anyway, it was good, and family members were there, and there was no. I got to tell you, at this point in my, come on in, those boys are here. Now we can have church. Anyway, what was I saying? At this point in my journey, drama, especially family drama, just stresses me out to no end. I'll just nearly do anything to avoid it. Because it's just, when you're sort of in your third act, you don't know when you're with somebody, it's going to be the last time you see them, and it's just like, man, you just have. There's a line at the end of Wicked when the two characters are singing to each other and they're kind of making peace. And there's just one line where they sing in unison. It's because they're talking about their different issues, and they sing, and none of it seems to matter anymore. And it's really powerful when they sing that, because there's so much stuff. No, if your family was dysfunctional, welcome to family. There is no family that doesn't have a degree of dysfunction, and you've had to learn how to navigate through it. But at a certain point, you have to really, for lack of a better term, choose your battles and learn to let stuff go and find some compassion in it all. So, having said all that, yes, yesterday was. I tell you, people need funerals. Serve a purpose, not just to be morbid, but like you need exclamation point at the end of a life. You need to acknowledge it. You need to grieve. Those things are, those are real human experiences. And so yes, yesterday was good. And even, the part I said about, because there's no doubt about my Aunt Clarice is like a savant. She's like a musical prodigy. And my mom likes her music, but she doesn't like classical music. She just doesn't. And what she always says, Clarice's long hair and music. And so yesterday, I thought she'd understood she wasn't going to the funeral, because she would not have been able to. Everywhere we had to go and trying to find where we were, there's no way I couldn't have. But she was up yesterday, like I said, and she said, what do I need to do? I said, there's nothing you need to do today. We're going to get together next week at Clarice's house, and we'll have your family time then. And she said, do you think people think I'm bad that I'm not going? I said, no, it's fine. Mom, nobody's expecting you to be there. They understand. And I could tell she was unsettled about that until I said, it's going to be a whole lot of Clarice's long hair music. And she's, oh, well, I'm glad I'm not going. And she said, why did they insist on doing that? I said, because that's what they like. That's what Don liked. That was Don's taste in music. He's Clarice's #1 fan. I said, he wasn't like you. And she said, who doesn't like me? She said, no, that's not what I said. I said, because this morning when I came down the stairs, I don't know how they're still playing Jimmy Swaggart reruns on TV, but the first thing I saw this morning was Jimmy playing the piano. And in her mind, that's good music. Do you understand why I felt more at home? Because when I'd stay with Don and Clarice, they had similar tastes as mine. Like when I remember when Jesus Christ Superstar first came out, it was considered super blasphemous. You know, my dad was preaching against it. He never even listened to it, but you know, like all this black. And I'd go to their house and they had a copy of the album and gave it to me, and you know, it was like that was the whole. They just had a total different vibe about things, and the thing is that's just the truth. I think, and here I go oversharing, but I've often thought like, what I try to see my Aunt Clarice through the eyes of other family members, and all the women in my family played. My mom played. My mom actually was an incredible organist. I was telling him this morning, the organ is a whole other thing because you're playing two different keyboards at the same time, and you're playing the bass. When I try to do it, I feel like it would make me nauseous. It messed with my, I don't know if it's ADD, but anyway. And my mom was back in the day, she was really talented with that. And they all could play. My Aunt Ernestine plays well, and my Aunt Myrtle did. They all did. And it was mandatory for girls to take piano lessons. But then when Clarice came on the scene, it was like, how do I explain it? It's like everybody in the family could play basketball, and then somebody marries Michael Jordan. Right. And now nobody wants to play basketball. Like, what's the point? If he says, let's go ahead and shoot some hoops, like, no thanks. And it's not jealousy, it's just, gosh, she's in such a different league. Like even yesterday, I was sitting there, my cousin Dwayne leaned over and he said, gosh, she still can play. I said, she's incredible. I mean, her chord structures and you know, she's got arthritis and can hardly hear. She can't really hear without hearing aids. And she's still, you would never know it in her playing. I mean, she's, you know, up and down. I'm like, that's still amazing. And I don't think the women in my family resented it. I just think they didn't know what to do with it. It's like, well, now nobody needs to play but her because she's clearly. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, that's a very real thing, and it just, you know, it just is. What's different about someone like Clarice is she plays by the music. She still goes out and practices every day, and she also plays by ear. And most pianists do one or the other, and she does both. And it was, I know yesterday was some. I know Don would have, and I'm assuming he watched. That's what he would love, and so anyway, it was good, and I had a great time with my kids, and got to spend some time with them, and you know that. It was just, all that was great and cathartic and exhausting and, you know, it's all of the above. It's just, like you said, it's just life. And sometimes when you hear about somebody else's life, it affirms your own life. Like, oh, well, I guess what I experience is normal. That's what everybody feels, you know. Like this morning, because a lot of Sundays now they do online, and I didn't even look over it. I don't know if you saw whose car. Usually Ken will notice whose car is in the driveway, so we pass. And I thought, well, church is going to be different for them today without him. And then the same thought, I thought, good God, I'm so glad they're not having to, because the last 3 months have been really, really hard. And I'm glad for them. You know, honestly, I felt this way with Dr. Sheila. Everything in me wanted her to pull through, and then when I saw her for days on end, come on in intensive care and hooked up to stuff, I thought, oh gosh, she would hate this. And I on Thanksgiving Day, we went to see her, and I said, Doc, if this is the way it's going to be, then yeah, for what it's worth, I release you to go to the other side. I don't want you to suffer like this. And there's a in-between state, you know, that if you believe. That's why sometimes when people say to me, I've got a loved one that's got a terminal disease, like how long should I stand in faith? I always say, take my cues from them. If they want to live, and as long as they're breathing, yeah, you hope against hope and never rule out a miracle. But also be aware that what you want for them may not be what they want. And if they're tired of fighting and want to go to the next thing, which we believe we always call a better place, whatever that is, then you have to be unselfish and say, well, I don't want you to be like this. And anyway, thanks for getting it. And y'all really are my family and my tribe, and I love you, and I appreciate it. And I tell you something else. I don't know, Jude, I asked to ask you. I said, you got any news about what's going to happen here? And he said, no. And he said, actually, he was at some place the other night and passed the guy. I hope he doesn't hear me. The guy that lives upstairs, who kind of started the whole thing. Right. And he's like super friendly. He's, hey man, how you doing? And she's like, I'm good. Kind of wish you hadn't started all this. But anyway, I was talking about that, I guess, last Sunday to them. Those people over there, what are their names? What's their names? Because it would be easy for me just to say, well, I'll just, if I think his plan is to finish out his lease here, which is through March. To the middle of March. And I said, I'd be fine with me. I mean, I did fine just doing online during COVID. But we were talking about it and said, man, there's still something about having a place where you get up and go see people. You can't, online is great, but you can't replace that. So I'm not worried about it. And I'll save what I'm going to say because it'll factor into my teaching. In fact, I've talked so long now that I'll go ahead and get started. But I didn't mention an outreach. We're going to do St. Jude's again this month. Hey, come in. The channels I watch run ads for them constantly, and it is incredible what they're able to do. Hey, bud. So we're going to do that. I don't think I had anything to announce. Remember, I'm sure you all know by now we're postponing Meditation 28. You all know that, okay? Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get into it today, Charles, because we're already in a flow. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from the Atlanta Theater in the Kirkwood neighborhood of Atlanta. Metron people, please welcome the podcast people with your applause. Wow, that sounded enthusiastic. You sound like you're really happy for the podcast people. Thanks always to Charles McFall. We appreciate it.
Today's the first month, the 11th day of the first month, which is 1/1/1, and you started at 11/11. This is going to be amazing message.
Wow. I would repeat to you what Avery just said, but it was really, really good. It was about when, huh?
Look at there.
What? It's like a miracle. We're manifesting miracles. What the heck? Hey, come in. What in the world? Oh, Lord, I'm going to have to bring my A game now. Huh?
You got presents today.
Yes, I got presents. Yes. Avery's in prophetess mode over there. I'm doing a series. Here's the title. The Time of Your Life, Harmonizing the Chronos with the Kairos for Optimal Manifestation. This is part 2. I feel sure you all know this, but let me just give you some context. There's 2 different Greek words that get translated time. One of them is Chronos, Chronos, which is where we get the word chronology, chronological. Has to do with finite time. Your watch, the clock, the dates, all of that. Kairos, Kairos, is a different concept. It's time out of time. It's time that doesn't have the restraints of Chronos. Chronos has deadlines. Kairos is, it's always now. Chronos is weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Kairos is one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. They're two different concepts. And most miracles happen in Kairos. Sometimes they happen in Chronos, but some of y'all might have grown up in a church that did gospel music, and they would say things like, "He may not come when you want him, but he'll come on time." You would hear that lyric in a lot of old school gospel songs. And the idea was, it may not line up with your Chronos, so embrace your Kairos, okay? And I'm going to show you 2 or 3 verses. Colossians 4:5, this is in the New King James Version. It's just one phrase I want to point out to it, where he says, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. I like that idea of redeeming the time, meaning it's not too late for the thing that you thought was supposed to happen, but the time has to be redeemed. That's why we have verses like, through faith and patience we inherit the promises. Because real faith says, I have it now. That's faith teaching 101 that most of you are aware of, but we all have to be reminded of it. I have to be reminded of it constantly. As I always tell you, just because you have a gift to teach it does not mean you have a gift to live it. Just this morning, Lisa, I think you're watching because you just texted me a minute ago. I always share, if any of my meditations that are in my memories, I usually will share them. I don't necessarily read them. I just share them like, oh, well, there's something I said 5 years ago that might be pertinent. And Lisa posted on there, she says, wow, you have no idea how much I need to hear this morning. So I went back and read it. And I thought, Lord Jesus, I needed to hear it my damn self. You know? All right. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you, 2017 me. Because 2026 me needed that little energy boost. I'm like, this guy's good. I need to find out more about him. Who's he? Where's he been all my life? And so you have to. Hebrews says we must give the more earnest heed to the things we have learned, lest we let them slip. And you have to be. You have to be reminded. Look, if your significant other told you they loved you on your wedding day, you might need to hear it again. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't want them to say, look, I said it to you once. Don't make me repeat myself. Well, I don't know. I might be second guessing myself a little bit today. Wouldn't mind a little something. You know, just want you to know I still love you. Thank you. Good to know. I want to show you this same verse out of the Jonathan Mitchell New Testament. And just some of the phrase that when you get into the Greek, the sort of, what's the word? Dissecting it, you see some of these meanings. Be habitually walking about within wisdom toward those outside, being ones constantly buying for yourselves as from out of the marketplace, the fitting situation. I love this. Redeeming the season within yourselves. Very important for you to discern what season you're in personally. Because some things that you want to happen are out of season. You may want watermelon, but you're going to have to wait till it's in season. I guess you could eat it if it wasn't mature, but it's not going to be good. Redeeming the season within yourselves, purchasing the fertile moment for yourselves, or making the best use of the opportunity in the public concourse. I love this. Some of this writing can get a little tedious because it's so wordy, but I love every little facet of that diamond. Like, wow, that's a beautiful way to put that. Have you ever had somebody say something to you that, like I've counseled a lot of people that can point to the moment they fell in love with somebody because they said a thing at the right time. And it was like, wow, that was such an opportune thing that you said right then. And I've also counseled with people that they said, I had hope for my relationship until they said this one thing. And when they said that, it was just like, it's over. And I just knew it. And I never could get that genie back in the bottle. Like once they said that, We will not be the same again. That's why I tell people, like if you're in a marriage and you're having difficulty, be careful throwing the D word around, because once you ever say it, and I've been through divorce, so I'm empathetic with it. But once you ever say it, it's out there and it's in the realm of possibility. Just be aware of that. Things are never the same once you ever say that. What? Exactly. And if I'm not saying to, like I counseled with somebody just this week, just day before yesterday, who's got a whole situation with a spouse and stuff going on that they know about, the spouse doesn't know about. And I said, look, I'm not saying, the spouse doesn't know that they know. And I said, what you're in right now is very dysfunctional, and you're going to have to tell them that you know all this stuff, because what you're living is an illusion. And I said, I'm being careful how I say this. It's nobody you know. I said, I'm not saying that this is irreparable damage to your relationship. I'm saying what you have right now is a facade. And so you've got to confront them with what you know without putting them on the defensive. Because I said, are you in love with this person? Absolutely. Do you want to save your marriage? Absolutely. All right, well then begin with that. Begin with, I want to fix this, but I need you to, and I love you, but I need you to know I know this. And I said, I can't guarantee you it's going to go the way you want. Because once they know this, that you know this information, it might not ever be the same. But you can't, you've been going on like this for years, you can't keep doing this. You know, I'm just going to tell you, if you're in a situation where as soon as your other partner walks out of the room, you feel the need to check their phone, you're already in trouble. I'm just telling you. There has to be, am I too real already? I'm just saying, there comes a time, I'm not saying that you should live in denial. And, you know, I've watched a little bit of the news this week, and there's so much gaslighting. You know where the term gaslighting means? You know, it comes from the movie Gaslight that was made. It's been made several times. The most famous one was Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman, where they lived in a place in England where there were gas lights, and the guy was trying to make his wife go crazy, and he would go up on the roof and he would dim the lights just a little bit, and when she would say something about it, he would make her guess her sanity. So that's where the term gaslighting, like when you look at an insurrection on the Capitol and you have people saying, no, it was just tourists, you know, like, no, you're gaslighting. Why don't you just tell me the truth and say, yes, this was out of control and we're dealing with it, but and I was listening, and I finally said, I'm doing a lot of turning off lately, because I'm like, I can't. But yesterday I looked at a little something, I thought, you know, gaslighting is not the same thing as calling those things which are not as though they are. Those are two different things. Faith and denial are two different things. You can believe for the best and still tell the truth. And also, you know, was it Judge Judy used to say, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining?
That's right. That's right. Okay.
I'm cussing. Look what you brought out in me today, Leslie. I'm just cussing. But it's the truth makes you free. It doesn't always make it easy.
That's right.
But it does make you free. Okay? And I think there was one more scripture I wanted to show you. This is Joel 2:25. This is the big prophecy about the Holy Spirit appearing on the day of Pentecost. In the Amplified Classic, he says, I will restore or replace for you the years that the locust has eaten. I love that idea that wasted years, you can get something back. It doesn't have to be a loss. Yeah. But from what I was saying about family members, I will tell you this, and I'm going to refer to several movies apparently this morning, but if you've ever seen the Gothic classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, it's a story of two sisters. It's not technically a horror movie, it's horror adjacent. But the whole idea is that they're in this dysfunctional relationship because one of the sisters thought she caused an accident that crippled the other sister. And so her whole life, she's ended up being a servant to the sister out of guilt. And come to find out, you don't know till the end that she didn't do it. And the sister did it herself and blamed it on her because she was, sorry for the spoiler alert, but it came out in 1962. But all these years, but there's this one line that only Betty Davis could deliver. When Joan Crawford's character is dying on the beach, and she says, "You didn't do it, Jane. You didn't." She told the whole thing, and by this time, Betty Davis's character is she's a nut job. Like she's lost her mind, and, looks insane. But she looks over. She says, "There's so much regret in this." She says, "So, you mean all this time we could have been friends?" I mean, it makes me emotional now when I talk about it because I think about the people that live in horrible situations over something that's not even true, something that could have been resolved years ago, but people have to prove their point and stuff. And they waste, your life's getting away from you. I mean, it's 2026, another Christmas is come and gone. Important people in my life that were very much alive and well in this dimension last New Year's are not here now. I'm very soberly aware of it. And I don't want to lose that sobriety. I want to be aware. I don't want to get to the end of a relationship and say, "So you mean all this time we could have been friends?" I mean, it's just that, there's such a heartbreaking thing from the human experience. Wasted years of being in an illusion. A similar thing happens in Gone with the Wind. I know Gone with the Wind's problematic, but just from the story point, the whole time that Scarlett really thinks she's in love with Ashley, and when Melanie finally dies, he's grieving over her, and she goes, "You really do love Melanie, don't you?" And he's like, "Duh, what, And that's when she says, "Oh my God, Clark Gable's at the house." And I'm like, "You're crazy, girl. You could have Clark Gable all this time, but you've been in love with Leslie Howard. What is wrong with you? He's Clark Gable." But it's too late. That's when he says, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Because she says, "Now I realize I wanted you." And he's like, "Too late. I've tried all these years, and you couldn't get this." At one point, he actually squeezes her head and says, "I wish I could get Mr. Wilkes out of your mind." And all of it was an illusion. He wasn't in love with her. A thing happened, and they kissed one time, and it was just a stupid thing that happened. It meant nothing. And the thing about Kairos is it can help you stop living under illusions and learn to live in the truth. And I'll tell you something else was that all the scriptures I had? I said 3, right? I want to share this piece of it because I believe this is a rhema word. Last night, I don't know, I guess because we started talking about the funeral and just talking about a lot of things. You know how a conversation just kind of goes all over. But before you know it, we're talking about sort of where we are in life. Many of you are retirement age or you've just retired, so this is where a lot of this age group lives, so this is pertinent to y'all, all of y'all. But he's worked really hard for years and very diligent, and he's thinking about when can I retire. And is it okay that I tell this? He went in the other day to talk to he wanted to know how realistic could I take an early retirement? Could I go part time? Those are things that many of you. I remember when you retired. I was at your retirement party. I mean, this is where we all live. And she basically said, "You're probably going to have to do another 2 years." And she said, "I'd really like you to go another 5 to make sure you get all your benefits," which he didn't want to hear. He was like, "No, I want to go now." So we ended up talking about it. I said, "Look, I'm supporting whatever you want to do." I said, "I will say this, that, time goes by so fast now that 2 years is virtually nothing now. 5 years, yes, that seems longer than you want, but it is what it is." And we're just talking about one of the upsides of living in Stone Mountain is because he makes the commute every day, and it cuts 30 to 45 minutes off his drive every day. So that, it's sort of like the universe foresaw where we were going to be now, because it makes his driving back and forth much easier, and he doesn't have to hit the Atlanta traffic and all that stuff. So it's, I don't even want to say good and bad. It's just all the stuff that we contend with. And as we're talking, I said, I hate that I preface everything with, well, I can't do this until Mom goes, but, because it's just so much stuff in my life is on hold. Yeah, I'd like to do that, but I can't deal with that until whenever she goes. And I said, we're both in a holding pattern. And then we start talking. Some of you who are in my age group will know what this is like. We're counting out like, how old will you be in 5 years? And then I'm like, oh crap, I'll be like this, because I'm 4 years old. And then I'm like, Jesus, I'll be that, Then I'm suddenly freaking out. We talked ourselves into a very scary place. And then I said, okay, we're going to have to, I don't like where this conversation is going. I said, we need to go back to, Jesus said, take no thought for tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day is the evil. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like Chronos was stressing me out. Yeah. And I was, we need a little Kairos up in here to say, this is the day the Lord has made, and one day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and take no thought for tomorrow, sufficient unto the days, the evil thereof. And I was telling him, I said, you can only plan so much, and you should plan. Consider the ant. Proverbs says how she stores up her food for the winter. But Jesus also said, consider the lily, how it doesn't toil or spin. There's a harmony and a balance between those two things. So yes, you got to make your plans, but you just got to live out your day. I mean, I know take it one day at a time, that's a cliche, but there's no other way to live. Because you start biting off chunks of big time and what ifs. And I remember the first time I taught him this was years ago when his dad only had one sibling, his brother Clifford, and they worked together. And Clifford, when he got really sick, we were kind of on that death watch. And that's because he could go at any minute, and I don't remember how many weeks, maybe months that he just lingered. And that's back when we first got together, and we were traveling a lot, and I was knocking out my bucket list and places I want to go. We planned this one trip where it's something I'd wanted to do. We were going to drive down to Sarasota. There's a beach there. There's that Siesta Beach that's got it's quartz, and I've just always wanted to go there. And I said we were going to Sarasota, and there was a Airbnb that their picture had a hammock under a palm tree on the beach. I was like, I want to lay in that. And so I was like, yes. And that's exactly what it looked like. We were going to catch a boat at Sarasota. It was going to take us down to Key West. It was a whole trip that I planned that had lots of movable parts. And we were really looking forward to it. But as we got closer to it, we thought Clifford would have been gone by now. But Clifford was still hanging on. Till the point I said, if I'm going to cancel this trip, I need to, because there's like 6 or 7 things I've got to cancel. Because there's like a boat, and there's a car, and there's all the, what it's like when there's a lot to it. And he's like, no, don't cancel it. Well, then we're getting closer and closer. And I'm like, well, if I don't cancel it, I'm just going to be out a lot of money. And so then he goes and talks to his dad and says, I may not be at Clifford's funeral. And his dad's like, that's all right. But I knew it wasn't all right. And I said, oh, man, this is stressing me out so much. And then we ended up deciding to go. We found some peace. Like, all right, we're going to go. Because I said, we could cancel this trip and then he'll still be alive when we could have done it. And it's just one of those things, like we did it. And I remember the first night we were in Key West, I said to him, time-wise, if Clifford died tonight, we'd be okay. We'd have time to get back for the funeral on Saturday. And I even said, Clifford, if you can hear me, if you want to go on now, it's fine with us. Not that I think you were staying here because of our trip, but if our energy was messing with your departure date, it's cool now. And he did. He went on. And we were back we did everything we wanted on our trip. We were totally back in time to be at the funeral. And, his widow, she's gone on, But she was standing there by the casket. We were talking to her, and she said, "Oh, I'm so glad y'all are here." I'm like, we nearly weren't, but we were. And I remember then thinking, you really shouldn't stress about time because stuff works out. And there's just that sweet spot between Chronos and Kairos that you just have to work at all the time. Like if you're in construction and you've ever used a level and you're trying to find that little bubble that goes right there in the middle. It's like Chronos and Kairos. They're both real. You can't ignore either one of them. But Kairos makes things work out. Kairos is Jesus coming to Lazarus 4 days after he was dead and raising him from the dead. His prophecy had not been true in Chronos because he said this sickness is not unto death, and it was unto death. But it was true where? In Kairos. I am the resurrection and the life. All right? So we finally got out of our heads last night. It was like, just go to work Monday and let's talk about this later. Everything's going to be fine. Because life doesn't always work out exactly like you've got it all planned. You can't go to somebody and say, I need you to die by... I'm going to say somewhere between, that's not the way it works. So people can't say, sorry, just can't check out for your convenience. And so we're all, is this resonating with anybody? You're always having to, when Chronos is stressing you out, you need to go, Chronos, I know you're there and I know you're real, but I'm going to have to embrace some Kairos and believe that there is something called God's timing. And it will work out. Now, having said this, and just so you know, one of my points is from something you posted this week, so giving you a heads up. Go ahead, let's see what I got here. I posted this, and Charles, I noticed you used it on the podcast, which is cool. I love this. I call back all the energy that belongs to me and release all the energy that is not. That's a huge part of Kairos, is learning to let stuff go that has robbed you of too much of your time. You know when a relationship's really over is when somebody says, I don't have time for this anymore. I don't have time for this drama. I don't have to. It's something about when somebody says, I don't have time for it. That changes everything. Because sometimes you're like, I can't live in this constant drama. I'm trying to live a life, and this is consuming too much of my time, which equals too much of my energy. You have to be there for people, and you have to lay down your life, and you have to go the extra mile. All that stuff is true. But nobody in the world has the right to just steal your time and your energy. Unless, the only exception to that is unless they're in a position where they're depositing so much in your life that one balances out the other. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like they give you so much that it's worth it. But if it's just them taking all the time, you got to be the steward over whatever time you have and say, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to live. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, because I just don't have time to contend with this. And we keep having the same argument, whatever. It's too hard. You're wasting too much time. My time is valuable. So I forgive you. You're absolved. God bless you. Via con Dios. Go with God. I gotta grab some Chronos blessed by Kairos. All right. Number 5. Kairos, it means the ripeness of time, the perfect moment to act, the perfect leap of faith, or the perfect storm. I think that's important. In perfect storm. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. It isn't so much time as it is timing, knowing when to jump. Kairos depends on intuition, responsiveness, and insight, or it can be missed altogether. This is so important. The Holy Spirit or intuition or whatever that is, your inner GPS system, the force, whatever you want to call it, Kairos is connected to that. I mean, I could just tell you story after story after story of things that have happened in my life that were fortuitous, and if I hadn't done them right then, it couldn't be put off. Like if I'd been 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later, it would have been a whole other scenario. And that's why, unless you're willing to get inward and learn how to meditate and learn how to trust your instincts and learn how to trust your gut, then don't talk about Kairos, because Kairos is all about that. Kairos is, you know what? I need to call them right now. Kairos is, I was going to go today, but I think I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Kairos is, Chronos is a taskmaster. Chronos says it has to be done now. Kairos is, I'm not ready yet, or I'm ready now and I didn't think I was ready.
Yes.
I mean, Kairos can give you a kick in the pants, and it can also slow you down. But it's all about learning to trust that instinct. That's why, I don't lead you in meditation that much, but I do it enough to remind you of the purpose. And it's this: you already know what to do. You just don't know that you know what to do. And until you get quiet, Chronos clutters up your thought life so much. It takes a while for you to get quiet and go subterranean until you get down to where the intuition is. And that's where Kairos can work. It doesn't work. People that don't know how to walk in the Spirit, they just need to stay in Chronos reality, because that's the only thing that's going to work for them. If, however, what is it Paul said? If we then be in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit too. If you're going to walk in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit basically is trusting the inner voice. That's all it is. And the inner voice sometimes will say now, and other times it'll say not now. How do I know? I don't know. I can't tell you. The inner voice speaks in the secret place of the Most High, and the way the voice speaks to you, that's your secret with God. I don't know it. It would be inappropriate for me to know how it works for you. Number 6. Kairos is the perfect, delicate, crucial moment. It's hard to see. The fleeting rightness of time and place that creates the opportune atmosphere for action, words, or movement. I mean, these are basic definitions, but I want you to understand timing is so important, and being centered and being quiet. I wish I'd thought to share this, but LaDonna sent me something this week. It was a little video. It was 5 things about meditative prayer. It was just very simple things, but it was really true. The first one was like, be present in your body. It was just a list of very practical things that really, I'll have it for next week, really resonated with me. I thought, yeah, that's the way prayer is. Like, for instance, and I wish I could tell you that I always practice this. This is not a do as I do. This is a do as I say do, okay? But so many times when a situation that looks negative is arising, if you will just get quiet and not overreact to it, most times it will resolve itself. The insanity comes from your picking at it, aggravating it, exacerbating the situation, over responding, letting yourself be unnecessarily triggered. What is it Joe Dispenza says, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom, and that's so true. And let me tell you something, it's easy to say, oh, just don't let yourself be triggered. Let me tell you, I live in a situation where I live in a minefield of triggers. And however time I've got left in this current situation I'm in, it's making me go through every possible scenario of what would you ever say if that was said to you? Because it was just said. So now you've got to learn a response. And I'm doing a whole lot of Groundhog Day. Let's try it again. And now you say that, and now I'll say this. And it's so easy. Let me tell you something. If you're an adult who has lived a life and has known some people, you got some trigger points. Now, we all deal with it differently. I've seen this in him in the years we've been together. It's happened so many times. Like he would come home from work. I'm telling all your business today. He would come home from work upset about a thing that happened during the day. And I would hear him out and I'd give my 2 cents on it. Well, then a few hours later, when he's getting ready for bed, I'd tell him good night. I'd be like, are you okay? And he'd be like, yeah, why? I said, well, when you came home tonight, you were really upset about the thing. He said, oh, yeah, I don't care. Like that, he had already processed that. And I'm like, what kind of man are, like, I don't know, like, how would you do that? Like, I'm so not wired that way. I'm like, what would that mean? And why did they say that? And I'm going to have to lay awake and think about it. And I've got to think about my responses. And I'm like, he's like, oh, no, that was a few hours ago. I'm like, what? What is that like? Huh?
Spit it out.
See, I don't know. I'm not a spitter. How to get your what? Yeah. Well, yeah. Because I think, oh, you know what you should have said? Yeah. And you want to get in a time machine, so let's do that. I go, now say it.
And Reggie be like, why you letting no folks bother you? I said, because I got to see them tomorrow.
Right. And what's really bizarre is when somebody's triggered you is not wired that way, and you see them later, and they're like, hey, how you doing? You're like, really? You're going to act like nothing happened? I can't tell you how. Now, this has not happened years. It's not happened in years. But back in the day, you know, when the church was big, sometimes I would get some letters from people that were so long and so detailed and so critical. If you didn't have a healthy self-esteem, you'd never survive it. Like after 10 pages of it, you're like, I have no value as a human being. I mean, somebody should exterminate me now. I mean, it's just like, good God, am I that bad? And then you see them some years later. I'll be at a funeral in Conjure, something like, hey, Bishop, how you doing? We love you. I'm like, and they act like it never happened. Like, oh, man, if we could ever hear you preach. I'm like, well, first of all, I've never stopped. But secondly, like I want to quote, like on page 7 of your letter, in the 3rd paragraph, you said that in 1993, I mean, I'm sorry, I wish would to God I didn't have the memory that I do. And when people act like it never happened, I feel like, remember when Will Ferrell's character said, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's like, I would rather somebody used to say, hey, you know, it's good to see you after all these years. I'm sorry, you know, I said some stuff years ago that I'd be like, all water under the bridge. But just don't act like it never happened and you never said that. Because I'm not just being sensitive. I mean, I can quote stuff, like I was did a funeral for somebody years ago, and the night before we were at the funeral home, and seeing lots of people, and it was just like, oh, trigger, 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 trigger. Like when I used to go to the funeral home at Conyers, I'd stand outside like, oh God, help my strength. Don't take anything personally. It's all, you know. And I'm past that, but in my peripheral vision, I could see somebody had Ken cornered and was talking to him. And I remember the last thing he ever said to me was, "You ruined my life." Because I took hell away from him. Like, I don't know who I am now because you made me think hell isn't real, and I loved hell and I miss hell, and hell rocks, and you took it away from me. And, I mean, it's one thing if somebody says, "You're too self-absorbed," or whatever. When somebody says, "You ruined my life," you have a tendency to remember that. So the whole time I'm talking to somebody else, I keep seeing this guy's just going at Ken, talking, and I'm thinking, good God, there's no telling what he is saying to him. So we get in the car later, and innocent Ken gets in the car and said, "I talked to so-and-so." He said, "Man, he loves you so much." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, you're such a great, there's nobody greater than you, and if they live closer to Atlanta, they'd come to Metron every Sunday. I'm like, no, I'm talking about the guy. He said, "Yeah, that's him." I said, "No, I mean," he said, "No, that's him." I said, "That's what he said?" "Yeah, why?" "I don't know. He told me I ruined his life." That's not what he remembers. He's like, And then sometime later, I saw him, and he said something similarly good. Like, "Oh my God, you're like a walking Bible." I'm like, that ruins people's lives? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get past it. But you have a tendency to remember. That's a big accusation to make. That makes you, when you're being introspective, think, maybe I shouldn't preach the whole counsel of God. Maybe I should be like Jesus and say, "I have many more things to tell you, but you can't bear them now." But see, I'm past that. Part of it's your fault. Because you said, when we had our initial planning meeting for Metron, he said, "I want you to say those things that Jesus said for 40 days after the resurrection. Then there's no record of." He said, I want Metron to be that." Like, great, now you've prophesied it. I'm going to have to tell you everything that I think. Hope you're happy. But do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes you think, I understand why Jack Nicholson said you can't handle the truth. Because you tell some people the truth, and their life is so based on a lie, it completely disorients them. The scripture says, "Comfort the feeble-minded." Like, just let them stay in their stupor, because if I give them too much truth, they're not going to be able to handle it. This next one, I think this is what I got off your page. No. Didn't I do one about healing? Is that not on there? Maybe I'm using that next. It was what you posted about healing deconstructs. It was really powerful. I thought I used that in this one. I guess I didn't. We're up to number 7? All right, we'll do this then. The universe delivers not always on your timeline, but always on time. I mean, that's just basically, that's Kairos versus Chronos. And when you can't, like in a conversation last night when we're trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and how's that going to work, and how old we, like, okay, I don't like where this conversation's going. Let's back it up, and let's just enjoy where our life is right now, and how, let's focus on what we know we can do right now. And that's why even because we've been living at the house nearly a year now, and renovating it to my tastes has been the most cathartic thing about me living there. Yeah. And Mom's fine with it, except yesterday my cousin texted me and said, "I need you to know, your mom called me at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, those men upstairs are moving all my furniture out. And I'm afraid they're going to have it all out of here in 45 minutes, and I don't know where I'm going to go." To which my cousin said, "That's your son," and she couldn't convince him. She knows who I am part of the time, but not always, not at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so my cousin said, "Well, go get on your bed and lay down. They won't take your bed if you're on it." And that worked. Yes, I know I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Thank you, Piedmont. So that's kind of where I'm at. Now, this morning, as I was getting ready, I told him, I said, I don't like this blackout curtain. It's too dark in here. I thought I wanted it dark, but I don't like it that dark. I like to see a little bit of sunlight coming in. I said, can we go today? And I want to change that out. I want to get some levelers. I want to put the curtains on the side and have the levelers in the middle. I don't want shears. I want levelers. He said, I don't know if we can find black ones, but he said we'd probably find gray. Black would probably be special order. I said, I don't know, gray or taupe, whatever. And he said, yeah, we can do that this afternoon. It totally made my day happy. Do you understand? It's like, oh, it makes me feel like I have control over my environment. If there's something I want to change, I can change it. I don't have to get clearance. I don't have to, and it helps. It's a small thing, but psychologically, it helps me in my current. Because I'm used to, I've lived on my own my entire adult life. So I'm used to live, especially, in my loft, it's like if I don't like something, I just start ripping it out. If I want to buy something, I go buy it. But, I don't ask anybody. And, but it's a way for me, it's symbolic, but it's a way for me to tap into the Kairos instead of feeling overwhelmed by the Chronos. To where I think, because, I think I told you this last week, but when my mom's twin brother passed on New Year's Day, and I went over there, and LaDonna said, have you told your mom? I said, no, I guess I better go tell her. So we walked back over there. I know I told you this. She's standing at the door, and she's just staring at me. She said, did he go? And I said, yes, he went. And so I'm waiting for her to burst into tears or collapse or something. She's well, I know they're really tired. And I said, okay. So I'm trying to think of something to say. And I said, it's interesting. Aunt Myrtle passed on Christmas Day, and Don went on New Year's Day. And she said, well, in another 10 years, I'll be gone. I was like, no, that's not where I was going with that. I'm like, Valentine's Day is coming up. MLK Day. What day is Groundhog Day? I'm just... And just for a minute, I said, okay, I can't breathe right now. Let me go upstairs. I know there's a pill for that. So I'm going through my meds, and I thought, she may be right. It could be another 10 years. Her sister's 7 years older than her, and she's very much alive. I'm like, okay. How old will I be in 10 years? And I'm trying to think, so 10 years from now, Ken will be retired for 5 years, but I'll be 87. And I was like, oh, Kairos. Oh, Kairos. Kumbaya, my Lord. Do you understand what I'm saying? At that moment, Chronos made me feel insane. Kairos is, remember that scripture you got when you moved in this house? It is not for you to know the times and seasons, but you shall receive power. And I know that was a word from God. And I thought, all right, then I'm going to stop obsessing over times and seasons, whatever they are, and be in the moment. That's what I did yesterday at I'm sitting there at the service for my uncle, and it seems like an end of an era, and I'm taking all that in, and even my kids and my kids were discussing with me about clerical. They were asking me why is this guy's robe like this? I said, I don't know. You can't overthink it. It's just and I said that sometimes clerical stuff feels like cosplay to me, and then other times it's like, no, I get it. There's a beauty, like the clerical collar is supposed to be like a yoke of servitude, like you're in the ministry to serve people. And the bishop wears the cross in his pocket because it's over your heart, because it means you give your life for the sheep. And like, when the Pope wears that mitre, it's symbolic. It's supposed to look like the flames on the day of Pentecost on your head. So there's beautiful symbolism. And I will also say this, sometimes actors will say, I didn't know who my character was till I put the costume on, and when I put the costume on, it nearly feels like that. Like when you put that on, it does make you feel a certain way. It's like it just does. There's a reverence to it, and I was into it yesterday. I mean, Tony McNeil, he used to be the worship leader at Ebenezer. He's at Columbia now, and he sat down and played. I've always loved the hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." But he put new lyrics to it, and it was so powerful. And I mean, I was really in that moment. Like, wow. And it's on my page. I took a video, and I went all the way around while people were singing. And I was like, remember this moment, because there's all kind of crazy stuff and dysfunction in your family, but there's also beautiful things about it. And my Uncle Earl, for all of his faults and issues, which he had many, he was also such a trailblazer. I meant to say this yesterday and I forgot, but Don and Clarice did a passion play at the Atlanta Stadium back in 1967, and it was an all-white cast that had a black Jesus. Now that would be unusual in 2026, but they did that in 1967. I'm like, I will always give you kudos for that. And that my uncle, did amazing things. And even, I'm feeling the anointing on this. Judah asked me at the table, we were at the repast yesterday, and he said, when did Pentecostalism connect with liturgy? And I said, Uncle Earl really was like the bridge for that. He's the first person that, and a lot of times in black church, that's kind of more of a thing, a respect for liturgy, especially like in, not so much Pentecost, but like in AME churches and apostolic churches. People really, it's very meaningful to them about the robes and all that kind of stuff. And I don't do it obviously that's not my vibe here, but when I'm asked to do it, I'm really into it. Like which is another reason, aside from the fact she couldn't have handled it, there's one reason I didn't want Mom to be there yesterday, because I wanted to enjoy it, and I know that's not her thing. She's never understood it, and that's fine. That's her journey. I wanted to go, and I'm like, they asked me to put this robe on. Okay, let me tell you something. Some of y'all were at my consecration back in 1998. I still have the same robe I was consecrated in. I have a very different body than I had nearly 30 years ago. When D.E. got consecrated, he said, I want you to be a part of it. I said, oh man, I don't even really do that anymore, but okay. And I better try this robe on. I was like, oh, sweet God. What am I going to do? I took it to the seamstress. I said, take this out as much as you can. She says, do you need to try it on and pin it? I said, no. Take it out as much as you can. And it was fine. And, I wore it yesterday. It was fine. But my point in saying that is there's 1,000 things from the past and the future I could be stressed about. But yesterday I thought, no, I'm just gonna be in this moment. I loved my uncle. I'm going to honor him in a way that, I could be funny and outrageous, partly because he would love that. Yeah. That's why I said yesterday, the day he wasn't even, his body wasn't even cold yet. He'd been gone 20, 30 minutes. And I came in and I started crying when I saw him, and D.E. and LaDonna came over and put their arm around me. I said, I'm supposed to be here comforting you, and yet you're comforting me. And somehow I've been able to make this about me already. And everybody laughed. And you know who I knew laughed more than anybody? Was Don. Because he would think that was hysterically funny, because he loves when people were self-aware. And I'm aware of my only childness. You don't have to tell me. I've been told it my whole life. So yesterday I was just like, I'm going to do what he would want me to do. And I told, stuff. But there's another thing I forgot to say that most people don't know about him. But when my uncle started what became the Cathedral of the Holy Spirit that is now Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, they were not just a stone's throw away from here on Euclid Avenue, which now the building looks the same. It's the building I was baptized in, but it's condominiums now, but it looks the same on the outside. Just right a few blocks from here on Euclid Avenue. And when they had their church back in the 60s, Inland Park area was not gentrified. It was not a ghetto, but it was ghetto adjacent. And Don had a bus for that church, and he would go pick up drug addicts, heroin addicts, and people. I mean, just people that if they tried to get in church, most people ushers would say, "You can't come in here looking like that." He would fill up a bus with them and take and fill up a pew of people, black and white, and all just people that no other church would accept. And, that needs to be honored. And that was part of my experience yesterday. It's like, I don't know how we're going to figure everything out, and how am I going to explain everything that happened today to Mom when I get home. And she pretty much understood it, and I gave her the program, and she was looking through that. And please know that as much as I joke about it, I do have extreme compassion for her. I know it's not where she's at right now. It's not her choice, and she's, in a lot of ways, a victim of a situation. She doesn't know how to, and I can't fix it. And I'm like, all I can do is do what I can. When I left this morning, I said, I left you a sausage biscuit. I went and got it this morning. There's that, and I'll have lunch for you when I get back. That's all I can do. And then I came over to see y'all, and we'll figure out. We'll all figure out everything that we need to figure out. Because you probably have things in your life too that you're like, I don't know how that's going to work. How am I going to do that? How's that going to work out? I don't know. That's why you've got to trust God. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not to your own understanding, which your understanding is shaped by Chronos. But in all of your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your paths in the Kairos. It's impossible in the Chronos. But in the Kairos, all things are possible. And think about how many things you've already gotten through. I'm fine, I don't need to clean it. That you've already gotten through that you think, I didn't think that was going to work out, but it did. And you did, when the smoke cleared and the dust settled, you were still standing, and you thought, all right. You thought, well, that's going to be the end of me, but it wasn't. And some things turned out even better than, well, I didn't know it was going to go that path, but now that it's all over with, I guess all things do work together for good. And you have to remind yourself of those things. Because you get so absorbed by the Chronos, you'll forget all those Kairos moments. I mean, how many times have you been delivered from a situation? I mean, how many times does God, whatever God is, have to do it until you finally say, well, I guess this one will work out too. The other ones have. But when you're in the middle of it, the Chronos looks really big and scary and unmanageable. And how am I going to work this out time-wise? Anyway, I'm going to put a comma there, and we'll do part 3. Because Leslie shared something I think is... What was it? It was something about healing. It was about the dismantling of...
What you built to survive.
Yes. That was it was succinct, very powerful. It was about healing. Just be here next week, because I'm going to talk about that. And it's not scary. We're not going to all be in a fetal position crying. It's like sometimes all it takes is someone to make you aware, oh, you're in survival mode. You don't have to keep doing that. Even we sat with John Scott for a little bit in the back in DE's office before we processed in, and he was telling me about his church, and he's writing a book, and we were discussing several things. And he was talking about engaging with people online who say negative things, and he'd somehow gotten in with this guy, and they've been back and forth at each other over some theological thing. He ended up saying to the guy, "Thank you. This is making you're giving me more visibility in the algorithm every time," which the guy didn't like that. I said, "Well, do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do, but I said, I don't do that because it's like, I know this is politically incorrect, but it's like Uncle Remus's tar baby. Like the more you mess with that, you just get it all over you, and like when you stop bleeding, you stop attracting the sharks, and that's why a soft answer turns away wrath. It's like I could engage with you, but it's not gonna change your heart. You change people's minds, you still don't change their heart. And that's John's. I said, John, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what I've learned. I just don't even go there anymore because it's a bottomless pit, and some people love the attention. They just love keeping you engaged, and you do you, which he was not arguing. He totally agreed with me. It's just.
Yeah, but he's got the ones that walk. You walk it, he's got to walk it. You learn from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you this, and I'll end with this. If you're not learning some stuff, even from your own mistakes, there's no point in you being alive. I know that's a strong statement, but everything, even the difficult things you go through, they all have to become teachable moments. Even if you screw up a situation so bad, then walk away from there and say, well, at least I've learned not to do it that way. I'm going to graduate from the school of hard knocks, summa cum laude. And I wouldn't have known it apparently otherwise. I had to learn it the hard way, and boy, it was a hard lesson. But at least I'm smarter. I got through it, and I'm smarter. I'm telling you, if you're not still learning, there's no other reason to live. And I don't care if you're 105. There still should be something today that you're like, I never thought of it that way. Until you have the ability to say, I never considered it from their viewpoint, or I never thought about that, or that's an interesting idea. You're basically brain dead. Your brain is alive when it's open to new possibilities, and somebody says something, you're like, I don't know that I agree with you, but that's definitely food for thought, and I respect your. They even, yesterday, DE talking about his dad used a word. I'm glad he used it because a lot of people think it's a negative word, but it was the word agnostic, the Christian agnostic. He said, my dad was that, and I completely believe that. Atheist means there's no God. Agnostic is we're all trying to figure it out. Right. Agnostic gives room for namaste. Fundamentalists on either side scare me. When somebody's absolutely sure that they've got the truth and they know they've created God in their own image and you're right and I'm telling you, it's scary. So I respect agnosticism. It means, agnosticism means nobody knows everything for sure. And it doesn't mean you can't walk in faith. If anything, it makes faith more mysterious and like, I don't even know if there is a God, but if there is, I'm calling on him. I mean, you know what I mean? And that works. The God who's forced to work in fundamentalism doesn't always come through for you.
And it makes you see God everywhere. It makes you see God wherever you go.
Absolutely. And every situation becomes a potential adventure. And maybe this is something I hadn't thought of before. And maybe this is a way God's going to work that I never saw before. Because if you're just, as I've told you a million times, The woman with the issue of blood who said, if I can touch his garment, I'll be healed. She made that up. There was no precedent for that. She created her own belief system. And what happened? Jesus said, who touched me? What touch? Was it her faith? Yeah, it was her faith, but it was also her imagination that touched him. And fundamentalism doesn't allow for imagination. Fundamentalism says, this is the word, this is the way it is, and I don't want any argument.
She prophesied and didn't know it.
Huh?
She prophesied to herself and didn't know it.
Totally. Comma, Stan. Play the outro, please, Michelle, and then I'll speak a blessing over it. You know, I was going to anoint
Contributing to
everybody
Metron
last
is
Sunday.
quick
but I just-
and easy.
that's
You can
just
give
not
any
where my
time
head's at
using
right
any
now.
smartphone. Text the amount you'd like to
Maybe I'll do
donate
it
to
by the end of the series.
404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation.
Did it again.
You may also visit BishInTheNow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month.
I meant get a paper.
Thank you for your investment into Metron.
Yeah, I spilled water, so I don't think that's slick, but I just want to be careful. If you have a check, make the JSM. If you have cash, pay it forward. Spirit of God, make us sensitive to the still small voice. Kairos, we embrace you. Chronos, we honor you, but we do not serve you. We are aware of you, but you are not the full story. We leave here today open for possibilities. Everybody say after me, God is here. God is real. God is in me. I am open. I walk in the Spirit. I have the mind of Christ. All things are possible. And I am free from the restraints of Chronos. And I walk in the liberty of the Kairos. God bless you. Go in peace.